Here's Simon Hill. And it's a very good morning to Simon Hill. How are you, Simon?
Very good, Marty. How are you, mate?
Very well, very well. I know you're catching a flight out of Adelaide back home, so we'll get into the English Premier League. And it started off Everton-Arsenal, a 1-1 draw. Yeah,
a result that effectively ends Arsenal's bid for the Premier League title. Very frustrating for Mikel Arteta. They took the lead through Leandro Trossard, but a bit of a contentious penalty awarded in the second half early on allowed Everton to get the equaliser from the spot. Idrissa Ndiaye with the equaliser, and that basically means that Liverpool now need, I think, 11 points from their last 7 games to clinch the title mathematically. Arsenal a long way back. That's a big blow for Arsenal. Looks like they're going to finish second again for the 3rd year in a row. They've got the consolation of a big Champions League quarter-final coming up against Real Madrid during the week, but they just haven't been consistent enough to put real pressure on Liverpool. So, Everton, as for their part, obviously they're leaving to move to a new stadium next season, and David Moyes has done a good job. They're safe from relegation now, so he's done a fine body of work since returning to Goodison Park.
So Crystal Palace at home have beaten Brighton Hove Albion 2-1.
Yeah, this is it's a derby of sorts, this game. It goes all the way back to the 3rd Division days in the 1950s. They're not geographically close, but they don't like each other very much. And it was a typically testy affair, but Palace edged it by 2-1. Second half winner from Daniel Munoz after Danny Welbeck had equalised Jean-Philippe Mateta's opening goal after 3 minutes. It was also a game that featured 3 red cards late on in the game. Eddie Nketiah and Mark Gay for Palace, and John Paul Van Hecker for Brighton as well. Palace are going well at the moment. They've won 5 of the last 6. They're looking to finish in the top half of the table. They've got an FA Cup semi-final to come against Aston Villa. They do face 7 of the top 10 in the run-in in the Premier League, though, so finishing in the top half might be tricky. But, good win for Palace, and Brighton have started to fall away. They've had a few injuries as well, to be fair. But, it's local bragging rights, or not so local bragging rights, if you like, for Palace fans today.
So they always gets me, Ipswich. Ipswich Town 1, Wolverhampton 2. They led early, and Wolves left it late to win the game.
Yeah, Liam Delap with his 12th goal of the season for Ipswich. He's been one of the few highlights for Kieran McKenna's team. It looks as though they're going down now, Ipswich. 12 points adrift of safety with only 7 matches to go. And by the way, this result also means that Southampton will officially be relegated if they don't beat Spurs later on today. I'm sure we'll come on to that game in a moment. Wolves, 2 late goals. Pablo Sarabia on 72 minutes and Jacob Strand-Larsen on 84. Vitor Pereira's done a great job since taking over there midway through the season, so they look as though they're going to be safe. Ipswich's big problem, apart from not scoring enough goals, is the fact that they've lost 11 home matches, and really you can't do that in the Premier League. 6 in a row at home. So Ipswich, after those back-to-back promotions, which was an amazing achievement, really, looks as though they're going to be back in the Championship next year.
Funny old game, Hammers and Bournemouth. Bournemouth led early 1-0. Hammers got in front 2-1, and then Bournemouth closed late for a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, Evan Nielsen, the hero for Bournemouth, a couple of goals. That's 6 in 6 matches now. He's really stepped up to the plate in the absence of their top scorer, Justin Kluivert, who's got 12. He's out with an injury at the moment. But they've had a dip in form, the Cherries, just at the wrong time of the season. They were challenging for Champions League at one stage, but they've fallen away a bit. They're now winless in 6 matches. Of course, they went out at the FA Cup to Manchester City last week as well. As for West Ham, it's been another middling season, really. Graham Potter has steadied the ship a little bit. The big plus for them out of this game was a good performance from Nicholas Füllkrug, who cost them $27 million from Borussia Dortmund. He was really good in the second half in particular. His best cameo probably since arriving at the club. Got on the score sheet as well. And Jared Bowen ending a little mini scoring drought, his first in 5 games as well. So all square at the Olympic Stadium in London. A
couple of teams have had great seasons. It was 6 versus 3rd. Villa at home beating Forest 2-1. They led 2-0 early.
Yeah, 7th successive win for Aston Villa, having a really strong end to the season. Morgan Rogers and Doniel Mallon with 2 goals in the opening 15 minutes. Forest, uncharacteristically, very slow out of the blocks. They're also missing a couple of their key strikers up top, particularly Chris Wood, who's out with an injury at the moment. They were better in the second half. Jota Silva got one back in the 57th minute, and they might have even grabbed a point late on. Murillo crashing a shot off the bar with Emi Martinez completely beaten. But a good 3 points for Villa. They're now level on points with Manchester City, but behind them on goal difference, so they're in 6th at the moment. They too have got a big Champions League quarter-final first leg coming up against Paris Saint-Germain on Wednesday. They're in the Cup semis as well, as are Forest. So an exciting end to the season for Villa. As for Forest, I just wonder now whether they're just a little bit nervously looking over their shoulder. They're 6 points clear of Chelsea and Manchester City, but those 2 clubs have got a game in hand. So it could be a tight run for that top 4.
4 games to look at, and 3 of them get underway tonight at 9 o'clock, and a big game for Brentford. They're playing Chelsea, 320, 375, the draw, Chelsea 212.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of value in the draw in this one, to be honest. The reason for that is that Brentford can't win at home. They haven't won in any of the last 7 matches on their own patch since early December. And Chelsea haven't won an away game since the same period.
I like your logic.
Spurs at White Hart Lane on the 8th of December. So, something's got to give. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended all square. It's a London derby, a local scrap. Brentford are safe in mid-table, so they can afford to really go for it. I fancy there might be a few goals in this one as well. Chelsea, of course, still pushing for top 4, which is the position they're in at the moment. And they beat Spurs during the week that sent them back into 4th. So, yeah, I think there's good value in the draw in that one.
Is this going to be one of those wins for Liverpool? You preempted earlier. Fulham at home, 460, 365. Liverpool, $1.78.
Yeah, I think they've got it right with that one, to be honest. Fulham are more than capable of scaring the big teams. And they went to Anfield in mid-December and got a 2-2 draw. But their season rather in danger of petering out a little bit. They went out of the FA Cup last week to Crystal Palace. They're 13th in the Premier League. They're not going to be relegated. But Liverpool are just a machine this season. Lost only once all campaign. 25 league games unbeaten. And with that draw for Arsenal last night, you'd imagine that Liverpool have got the smell of that Premier League title in their nostrils. So I think they'll go to London. I think they'll win. Oh,
the pressure's building for Spurs. And these are those games that you always say, be careful. They're playing Southampton.
Yeah.
They're $1.37 at home, $5.30 and $7.50 the Saints.
Well, you know what I'm going to say. 99% of the time, Tottenham will win this game quite comfortably because Southampton are as good as down. They will be down if they lose. But it is just the sort of game that they will slip on that banana skin. And to be honest, if they lose today, I think that could be the end for Ange. It turned a bit toxic between him and the fan base during the week against Chelsea. Whether his cupping of the year was misinterpreted as he claims, I don't know. But I'm not going to tip against Tottenham because they should win today. But if they don't, wow, watch out, Ange.
Well, you got the Manchester derby here. United play City. They're 335, 360 and 207, the Sky Blues.
Yeah, this is another flip of the coin game, to be honest. I mean, both clubs have been wildly inconsistent this season. You remember the first derby earlier on this season, City were leading 1-0 with a few minutes to go and seemingly comfortable, but the defensive frailties came back to haunt them and United nicked it by 2-1. City did beat Leicester during the week. They're in the Cup semi-finals, and United have got their Europa League quarter-finals to come against Lyon, so they'll have one eye on that ahead of this game as well. Does he juggle the squad, Ruben Amorim? Do they go for it at home a lot more than they did at the Etihad? To be honest, again, I'm going to sit on the fence on this one and say a draw.
Yeah, okay. Let's go to the A-League. And, there's plenty of goals in the A-League, Simon. You must love broadcasting it. There's always excitement. And the game you had yesterday, Adelaide 2, Sydney FC 3. Just let's start there.
Yeah, it was an absolute belter of a game. There's nothing better in the A-League than a Saturday night at Cooper Stadium under the lights. Great pitch, decent crowd in, over 10,000. And the two teams really went for it, probably because they're both hopeless defensively. It was a real seesaw affair. Archie Goodwin with Patrick Klimala with the opening goal. Mistake from the young keeper, Max Fartuli, who was making his debut against his own club. Back came Adelaide through Archie Goodwin. Klimala again with a second. Goodwin again with a brace to make it 2-2. And then in stoppage time, Adrian Segacic, I don't know how many times he's done this off the bench this season. He must be really frustrated that he can't get a start. But every time he comes off the bench, he scores. And that's what he did to, clinch the game for Sydney. And they needed that win. If they'd lost, they would have been 6 points behind the top six with only a handful of games to go. And they play all of the top three in their final four matches. So a really crucial win for Sydney ahead of their big Champions League 2 semi-final against Lion City Sailors this week.
It's always going to be tough for Glory against the second-place Western United, who beat them 3-1.
Yeah, and obviously, the aim for Glory in what remains of the season is to not finish bottom, because that will be back-to-back wooden spoons. They're level on points with Brisbane, but this is always going to be a tough assignment. Western are having a terrific season. And, of course, with Auckland top at the moment, that means that second will be good enough for qualification for the Asian Champions League Elite next year, which Western have never been in. So there are plenty of motivation, and I'm afraid they were too good for Glory again. Perth have conceded 54 goals now this season. It's been a big problem for them. Reece Bozanovsky, Tarash Kamulka own goal, Rami Nazarine for Western, Jalen Pearman with the Glory's only response. So, yeah, it's been a tough campaign for David Strilic. They can only hope for better next season and aim not to finish in that 13th position.
First versus fourth, and it was Auckland, Western Sydney Wanderers 1-1.
Yeah, and Auckland are sort of limping towards the premiership a little bit. This is their fourth draw in 5 matches, although in fairness they did win at the Mariners last week by 2-0. They couldn't quite get over the line against the Wanderers, who are having a decent season themselves. Gallegos gave Auckland the lead just on the stroke of half-time. Nicholas Milanovic with his 11th of the season, earning the Wanderers a point, which solidifies their place in the top 6. The Wanderers could even have won it later on. Jack Clisby hit the crossbar in the 89th minute. So Auckland would probably be looking over their shoulders at Western, who closed that gap down to 5 points, but you'd still say that Auckland are the favourites. But 3 of their last 4 are on the road, and they've got to go to Sydney, who obviously have still got a lot to play for, Melbourne Victory and Western United on the last weekend of the season. It could well be that the premiership might hinge on that clash in Tarneit.
And the other game yesterday, Melbourne City, too good for Central Coast Mariners, 1-0.
Yeah, Mehdi Mehmeti with the winner on 29 minutes. They don't score a lot of goals, Melbourne City, but they're very solid defensively, the best defence in the league. 4 clean sheets in their last 5 matches. And, Aurelio Vidmar has had a lot of injuries to contend with this season. They might be a smoky in the finals. I won't be surprised to see them go a long way. Conversely, the Mariners, of course, the back-to-back champions, they've had a real coming back down to earth with a bump this season. They lost too many players during the close season again, and you can't keep doing that and expect to compete. So Melbourne City, watch out for them in the final.
Okay. We'll just leave Simon Hill there because the phone dropped out. He was at Adelaide Airport. A very good morning to Brad Hardy, who now joins us via the phone this morning. Hi, Brad.
Morning, mate. Glad to be with you. Good day's racing. Plenty of good football on. So looking forward to having a chat with you this morning.
Yeah, that is for sure. We need to bring our listeners up to what happened at Meydan overnight, and Romantic Warrior has been touched off again. The Japanese had an amazing night over there in Dubai, and the great horse Romantic Warrior looked home. They seem to be making ground late, and Soul Rush was out to nab him on in the shadows of the post. The Japanese also won the Dubai Shima Classic with Danon Desile winning that race and all night. And then, of course, in the last race, it was Hit Show, the American, beating Mixto. Looked home for Frankie Dettori, who's back in the saddle, and Forever Young, the horse who'd beaten Romantic Warrior. about a month ago, was back in third spot, but never a chance. So bring you up to date with what happened to Meydan overnight as well, Brad.
Yeah, well done, Marty. Yeah, romantic warrior's a star, is he? But unfortunately, it's amazing. It's a bit like a boxer, isn't it? You get beat once, and also you get beat twice in succession. But anyway, he wouldn't have lost any friends, I'm sure.
Oh, that is for sure. James Sully Sullivan, not far away. I just want to ask you a quick question. Gold Coast, Adelaide, what a magnificent game of football. Best game we've seen all year. Was the free kick there for Rankine or not?
Look, see, we're privileged that we can watch it 200 times.
Yeah.
The umpire saw it once. They missed it. There was 4 of them out there. They didn't get it. They didn't see it. Look, there's a lot of argument. Adelaide are going to ask the question during the week, Marty, but I think we could go back through the whole game and there's going to be contentious decisions. But, yeah, unfortunate. You just got to roll with it. And it was a fabulous game of football. We thought it was going to be, and it lived up to expectations. But they've arrived, haven't they? The Suns, they're a different unit to what they were 12 months ago, as Damien Hardwick said. This time last year, they would have lost that one.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And you saw there were moments in the game that players like Rioli, who just used that experience, didn't he, late in the game when he was able to clean up a wobbly ball behind the play and then turn a defence into attack. But, no, terrific game of football, high-standard game, and come down to a point in the end. And I'm sure Adelaide Crows will take plenty out of that too because they had players missing. And at Gold Coast will look at it and say, well, if we kick straight, we could have won it by more.
Yeah, but it was a great effort by Gold Coast in a sense because, as you said, what about those key forwards? I mean, they all got bags, the big boys. So, yeah, it's sort of like when your best players get plenty of the ball, but you still lose. Well, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. They've invested so much in that forward line. They all got amongst it. I mean, Tilford was fantastic, wasn't he? He was sensational yesterday in all facets. Tex got amongst it. Fogarty got a few, and they still couldn't win. How?
Well, the three-headed monster, it is real. There's no doubt about that. I think Walker should have been on the ground for that last 2 minutes, shouldn't he?
Yeah, look, I think there's lots of time. It was a very hot day, and they're probably maybe thinking about, well, you've got to win that game because they've got a 5 or 6 day turnaround now. He probably doesn't play against Geelong next week on Thursday night, I think it is, in the beginning of gather round. But you're right, you've got to have your best players on the park, and sometimes the sports science gets in the way, Marty, and you've just got to roll with your gut feel. And the gut feel yesterday is, I think, you're right, that he should have been on the pitch.
What a day it was at Randwick yesterday. About to catch up with James Sully Sullivan, but the performance that got me was Aliana in the derby. What about her?
Oh, yeah. It was really interesting because, you'll talk about it in big bets, and I think there was a big bet on it. And most of the pundits or the track watchers that I talk to and you talk to, they said if she stays, she'll win. If she stays, oh, carry me. I mean, that was unbelievable, wasn't it? She was just panels above them. And I think even Chris Waller thought at some stage, well, someone's going to come with us. She just left nothing to chance. She just blew them away, topping the rise. And it was a fabulous effort. And it's amazing. The Waller camp, they just keep finding them, don't they?
Oh, can he peak him into a Group 1 as well? He's quite amazing. Now we're going to catch up with James Sully Sullivan. Good morning, Sal.
Find a lady, can't he, Waller?
Oh, can he ever? Can he ever? How are you, James?
Yeah, very, very well. Yeah, yes, a lovely week. And guess what, boys? Then there was none. Everyone's off the mark in the NRL. Oh!
Hey, Sal, the Eels. Let's start with the Eels. The McDermott brothers will be listening in. They were able to get one in what do you call that? A golden point, wasn't it?
Golden point, my friend, and it was an old boy. I'll tell you what, the 2 old boys for each club, and we're talking about the Dragons and the Eels, of course, and it was locked up 22 all at full time. But Clint Gutherson, the ex-Eel, they love him. Scores the opening try. Oh, what drama at Combank. And then grabs 2. And then Zach Lomax, the ex-Dragon, goes, don't forget about me, brother. Mm. He kicked 5 goals, kicked the winning field goal in the 83rd. And as you said, the McDermott boys, I thought of them yesterday. I thought, gee, I was waiting for a phone call, actually. But, up and about. And this Rocks and Diamonds year for the Dragons continues. But, mate, all jokes aside, Jason Riles, I'm really pleased. And Brad obviously done his apprenticeship down there in Melbourne under Bellamy. And he's just slowly but surely, and obviously know a little bit about the club, what's going on in their juniors as well, coming through. So, no, I'm really pleased, and it's just good to get the monkey off the back, as one would say.
Sully, a couple of really big wins. The Dolphins over the Titans and also the Bronx over the West Tigers.
Yeah, it was at that sort of Saturday night, wasn't it? The Dolphins, as we know, same sort of scenario. That they've been good but not great. And consistency, you've got to put 2 points. You've got to put two halves. That's the bottom line. And they led 16-0. This is disappointing for the Titans at home in front of their fans. But, we all know Dolphins have got points in them and kicked off to win, as you say, 36-10. And then, I tell you what, it was a dour struggle at Suncorp at 14-12 at half-time. And, geez, Benji Marshall, he might have to get the checkbook out. He just might have gone over not allowed to bag the referees, remember? What a load of nonsense. And they just kicked into gear, didn't they? They scored 32 points in that second half, the Broncos. And listening to Michael Maguire last night, he says we're nearly there, and I was critical of them on Thursday about, they're beaten up on sides below them. So that second half last night, they definitely beat up on the West Tigers, and it's probably the side that we want to see more from the Broncos.
So, the Titans, every time they get you in, don't they? You listen to Timmy Walker in the mornings. He loves anything Gold Coast, and the poor old Titans. I said to you on Friday, they win, don't they? Well,
they got me. I was like a big cod with a little bit of music. Come on, Sully, come on. Oh, got me in all right. That's that consistency. But it's like what I said, though, just then, Marty, about this Dolphin side. We know they've got points in it. And if passes stick, all of a sudden, they get a little bit of confidence. And they've got some confidence, as you say, in that second half. They still scored 20 points in the second half. Obviously, the Titans grabbed 10. But, yeah, it's. I think we're going to see this. And, boys, we're into round 5. And I've got a funny feeling in this NRL at the moment. Let's be totally honest. Okay, we've got the Bulldogs undefeated. We'll have a look at them today. But who's putting their hand up to say, pick me? Because at the moment, we'll have a look at the Rabbitohs. All of a sudden, that great win the other night against the Roosters. But it's that sort of comp at the moment. There's no one really putting their hand up and say, look at me, look at me.
Yes, okay. We're doing this by phone today, so there will be a few pregnant pauses throughout. And the other match, Panthers, tell us where they're at, 18-22.
Wow. I know Cowboys. Where they're at. They're at 15th. No, they're sitting 15th or 16th. They're 1-4. I did pick the Cowboys on Friday.
You did, 1-12.
I just had... I did. It was a nice price as well, but I just had that little feeling that, that they showed a bit of form last week against the Raiders up there at home. And as I said, I had a chat to Toddy during the week, and he's pretty happy they're away now because obviously they're still in Sydney. They fly to Perth on Tuesday. We've got that double header there next Saturday, which will be an absolute Bobby Dazzler, the 2 games we've got organised. But, Panthers, it's just not happening at the moment. And Isaiah Yeo, it was his 250th. You think they'd get up and about for it, but they led 18-12 at half-time. Didn't score a point in the second half. And we knew it would happen, Brad. We knew the player drain would eventually evaporate them. That's the bottom line. And at the moment, I think the quality of players at the top didn't play on the week on Friday night. Dylan Edwards, we're talking quality footballers. And I think the big loss is Luai at the moment. They just haven't got that creativity, which helps Nathan out.
And Sully, just before Marty gets into today's game on Thursday, the Raiders and the Sharks, bit of contention in that one. Ricky obviously was a little bit miffed about one of his players.
Oh yeah, Hudson Young spent time in the bin, and we knew, Brad, before the weekend that there was going to be a crackdown on high tackles and this and that, and I think it was ridiculous. It was like Todd Smith got told it. There was one early in the first half that just he let go, and everyone said, "Oh yeah, that's fine." Well, I think someone tapped him on the shoulder at half time and said, "Hey, don't forget we've got a crackdown this week." And then all of a sudden, Ricky went from agony to ecstasy, didn't he? He's grabbing 40 and Bish round the head after they'd won. He was kicking buckets. Fair dinkum. I hate to see if they lost.
Hey, we've got a couple of good games today. These are good games. So Manly, 285, Melbourne Storm, $1.42, line 7.5, and then your boys, the Bulldogs, $1.47. The Knights are $2.70. This is a good game, 6.5.
Yeah, 2 great games, as you mentioned, and it's incredible. We're into round 5. This is the 4th home game. And listen to that, listeners. Yeah, don't grab the cotton buds. This is the 4th home game for the Sea Eagles, and we're in round 5. I had to check that this morning. I went, hang on, because I know this is their third Sunday in a row, but they played their round 1 as well. So, geez, they've had a nice luxury to get some points early, haven't they? But they take on a side that they haven't had many problems. The Storm haven't won at Brookvale since 2020, Brad. So
no.
It's one of those ones, and the Sea Eagles won 3 of the past 4. Big news for Storm fans last night. Jerome Hughes will play. He broke the hand a few weeks ago. He's had surgery, and he's suiting up. Unbelievable.
It's pretty tough. So, okay, let's get our bets for today.
Oh, mate, I'm going to go the Storm. They don't lose very often. I think they'll be up and about. No Trbojevic. That's right. No Tommy Trbojevic. We all know the percentage, and it's, I think they're getting better at it. Like Hopewati will play fullback, Cooler in the centre. So, I neck the mix, but I thought they were a little bit hard done by last week, the Storm. If things didn't go their way, it might this week. So, mate, 1-12. I'm more than happy with that.
Yep.
The Melbourne, I don't think they'll blow them out of the park. Well, as I said, Sea Eagles at Brookvale is a different proposition, So I'm going to go that. But the next game, wow, Bulldogs undefeated, as you say, and Knights off a break. Leo Thompson, he's the new signing going. He plays for the Knights against his new club for next year, but they towed him up in 2 games last year, the Bulldogs. And Newcastle, obviously, as you know, made finals. So same scenario. I think it'll be a pretty tight battle. But I'm going to go the 1-12 in that one too, Marty. So
Dogs.
Here's my little. If we go the 1-12, 1-12, we're getting $9.30.
Right.
So Storm.
Yep.
Bulldogs.
Yep.
$9.30, and I mentioned him, Jerome Hughes. He's back. I'm going to go him to score a try any time into Bronson Cherry at $6.41. We need something.
Okay, $6.41, Hughes Cherry. You just mentioned play, and there's been a lot of talk, Brad, this week, what happened with Oscar Allen, etc. So what Sully just said then, teams in the NRL, how it's different, how a player can be, say, playing for Newcastle this year, already know he's going to the Bulldogs next year. How does that play out in the NRL? Is there any sort of thought, well, is he going to go in as hard as he would, or it's just all fine? They're mature enough for it all to take place?
Yeah, none at all. It's just common practice. We look at Dylan Brown, obviously at the Eels. He signed that, big contract there a couple of weeks ago. Brandon Smith, I know Brandon Smith's injured at the moment, but he'll come back round 15. He's signed to go to the Rabbitohs next year. So, mate, it's just par for course. I think it's accepted. That's the bottom line. We're basically, when Leo Thompson signed, there was no hullabaloo. It's okay, no business as usual. Get on with it, and then change your address next year.
So
or the end of this year.
So when in the world's it going to happen in the AFL, Brad?
Oh, look, yeah, as I say, they're a bit more conditioned to it in the NRL with Sully, but as I say, there was people ringing our station yesterday, Sully, saying that Dylan Brown's checked out, or they feel as though he has. He's not invested. Look, there's no doubt everybody can go and investigate what their worth is. There's no problem with that. But when you're the skipper, you've got to live above everybody else a little bit. You've all got to be on the same page. The biggest thing, Sully, it doesn't matter what code it is what do they tell you? We're going to sell our messaging. Well, the messaging is, hang on, the captain wants out. So it's very hard to get the captain to sell that message if he's not staying.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say you had those phone calls. Yes, I think the one big thing with Dylan Brown is, and I just mentioned Nathan Cleary before, Dylan Brown is missing Mitch Moses as his half. The bottom line is Dylan's he's not going to run a side for 80 minutes. That's what I'm saying. He's got Hawkins at the moment. Hawkins is a passer and a kicker. And it's very similar, as I said, with the Penrith scenario. Cleary is missing Luai massively. But that's the scenario. I think well, from what I saw yesterday, Dylan put his hand up a bit yesterday. So I think when Mitchell's obviously, he's still about 6 weeks out. But, yeah, but back to the original question, Marty, it's, as I said, in rugby league, in the NRL, It's just accepted.
So we've got to get moving. All the best. We'll listen in on Thursday, talk on Friday.
Absolutely. See you next week, boys.
Sunday morning. Tab Radio Racing and Sport is turned on. And you are listening to the dulcet tones of Marty Young and Brad Hardy on the Aftermath.
From Nordic, Viking and Buffalo as they straighten up. Bellazane in front from Prestige Forever. And Wotan's been wide going after the leaders. State Visit into the clear. Rivellino getting tight for room at the 300. And Prestige Forever shows the way from Wotan. Rivellino, State Visit, Bellazane. Vinrock's going right up the inside. Buffalo down the outside. State Visit wide out. Vinrock along the rails. It's Vinrock, State Visit. Vinrock in front. Vinrock won the English size. A photo for the miners. State
Yes,
Visit.
it was tight, but it was Vinrock beating State Visit, Buffalo, Woderson back in fourth and Rivellino fifth. We'll persevere for about 10 more seconds. Matt Laurie and Mark Zara combined with Vinrock to win the sires. Tell us about it. Bunch finish, Vinrock. This has been a terrific story for Matt Laurie. He's really becoming an emerging trainer, has horses, of course, with you long. He made a great comment after the race that they paid, I think, $200,000 for this I'm Invincible colt. And what he's been able to do for him now, winning two sires produce stakes, the one in Flemington when he beat Brave Design. And this one here really propels a young trainer like Matt Laurie onto the world stage, if you like, because we are the best at world racing at the moment. No doubt about that. State Visit. He was a massive drifter for Kieran Maher and Jason Collett, and I thought with that drift that he was going to struggle. He didn't. Buffalo, one of the roughies, he got out at $18. Where you go with Woderton, I think enough's enough, isn't it? Ryan Moore for Sook riding at Maidan to come over here and ride Woderton and couldn't get the job done. And, you know, Rivellino, I think they had Ballazane in the wrong race, even though North England did win the 1100 earlier on in the day. She's not a 1,400-metre horse at this stage of her career. She could be down the track. Yes, welcome back. And we've got Racetrack Ralphy joining us as well. We've lost hold of Chris Nelson for the minute. Hi, Ralphy.
Good morning, Marty. How are you?
Yeah, good. I think I've got Brad Hardy online as well. Brad, you still there?
G'day. Yeah, I'm here, Ralphie. We're talking racing. We're not talking football today, are we?
No, I wouldn't think so. Look, I just, I think, I don't know, going down to Geelong and just kicking the ball to the opposition with allowing one behind the ball all night probably isn't over the last 20 or 30 years been a winning combination, but who knows?
Oh, it might turn around if you try it again.
Yeah, very invented by Simon Goodwin. Park the bus.
Oh, my godfather, yes. Yeah, look, it'd be great tactics if we were 10 goals up, I admit that.
So tell us about Caulfield yesterday. How did it play?
Yeah, so Caulfield's back, boys. Caulfield is back. The hoses were left in the shed. They ran fast times. Let me just check the steward's report, and not one horse pulled up lame. So there's an idea. Just let the horses run fast on good, well-grass tracks, and the best horses win. The rail was out 9 metres, and when the rail's out 9 metres, the best lanes are probably 3 to 6 off, and that's where most of the winners came. And while it was quite a handy off-season meeting, as in the Easter Cup and the Victoria Handicap, I think there might have been 2 very serious emerging horses would be the theme for the meeting.
All right, we'll get to them. Let's start it off. Race number 1, and Aleppo Pine wasn't good enough to beat Scenic Point, and this run for Ben Will and JD Hayes just continues on. How well are they training?
They certainly are, and 1-2-09. Haven't yet seen Vince's breakdown of the data, but I'm saying that this is a horse you really want to be excited about with Scenic Point. It won like in trial. I know it started $1.40, and so you know if you want to take those prices, good on you. But it trialled well, and then dominated at Pakenham on debut, running real fast times, and you just wanted to see it do it again at Caulfield, and it did it. Look, I think, actually, I saw Ronnie Duffy point out yesterday that the size produce was pretty moderate time. Maybe the 2-year-olds in stakes form is not overly strong so far, and this is the type of crop where a horse like Scenic Point emerges as a real serious talent. So I think if they go to South Australia, it'll just be picking money up off the ground.
Race 2, it was a good push everywhere for Heart of Glass. It got there just.
Yes. Now, well, I don't know what helped Heart of Glasses win more, either Harry Coffey's good ride or Daniel Stackhouse's bad ride. I'm Prancing Spirit. That was a howler. And let's just call it as it is, because he should have been where Heart of Glass was. He chose to go in, and I just explained about the lades, the best lades at Caulfield. Clearly, with the rails out 9 metres, it's not hard to get to, and he wasn't thinking, and he got caught. So, having said that, Prancing Spirit, we know it's level. I think Heart of Glass is really on the up. We put a big black book stamp on it last start. The punters went for it. And I think it's going to South Australia too, and I think it'll be very competitive in stakes races over there.
Third event, the Grey got the money. Grey Ice for Craig Newitt, who's having a terrific run at the moment.
Look, he certainly is, and I'm always very reticent when it comes to apprentices compared to just telling it as is for senior jockeys. But he took the run. Hannah Edgley should have taken on Electric Bell. She was 3 back the fence at barrier 1. He was 4 back the fence on Grey Ice, and she chose to try and stay in on Electric Bell. I'm pretty confident Electric Bell would have won had she taken that run and just got there first. But Grey Ice, this stable can find a winner at big odds, Bevan Lamming. It was all position running, and these are all pretty well exposed benchmark 78, so I wouldn't be too excited going forward.
What did you make of race 4? The winner was Hughes, got there in the right lane, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, there were 3 1400 races on the day. This was a benchmark 70, significantly slower than the others. But well done to Logan Bates. I thought he was going to struggle from the wide barrier. In the end, he just bludged off John McNeil, who was 3 wide, no cover. But that's not bagging John McNeil. It was a no-pace race. When that happens, there's always going to be someone caught wide and probably not overly disadvantaged. So, but well done to the kid, Logan Bates.
Galilee Series final over the 2,400 metres. Is this one of these ones to follow, Statuario for Johnny Allen?
Well, it is, but they've walked as well. So
Yep.
A couple of things here. I mean, you know, the biggest learning for me, and I was pretty bullish on the meeting because, as I said to you guys 2 weeks ago, that Moonee Valley track was just a tip, and it was just, you know, an opportunity to take on poor runs there. This wasn't the case with this horse because it was obviously truck-loaded, but it was some very smart punters got onto it. You know, I think it was as high as 290 early in the week, got smashed in. He's going to take a power beat in the South Australian Derby, but if it's a big field, well run, I wouldn't rule out Politely Done. And I think Danny O'Brien's got a nice filly here with Litch Deal. I think she's going to run very well in the South Australian Oaks because she's come off some fast country lead-ins as well. So those two switched on, so as in the 2 colts, and so did the filly. So I think they're all going to be pretty competitive in South Australia and the Derby and Oaks respectively.
Race 6, Stephen Brown's a handy trainer, isn't he? He keeps... doesn't win out of sorts, but he's got a nice little stable. Patrick Maloney for him, and beat the Hayes boys on preferential.
Yeah, well, this was one where you could get an opportunity because, and I did Black Book it to you guys 2 weeks ago, this could not have had a worse run at Moonee Valley on that track. And they bet $6. Paddy Maloney worked it out beautifully here. Barrier 3, where'd he go? Right to the outside, and then that Travelator, and absolutely perfect ride there. Blau's Preferential, who came through a strong Ballarat race, and Fortune was another who had no luck at Moonee Valley. It was $8. That actually, and the disappointing horse was Kings Valley, obviously wasn't right on the day.
Talking about having good 15 minutes in your life, Matt Laurie wins the Group 1 size, then he'd be drinking champagne in the winner's bar and looks up and says, well, we've got one in this, Soft Love.
Well, this is the second of the emerging horses. I said about Scenic Point earlier. This one, they offered remarkable odds here, and part of which was very amusing that they wanted to back Michaela off for stakes placing on that Moonee Valley track. But Soft Love, in its 2 wins, they were off real slow tempos, but that electric turn of foot, both at Bendigo and Kyneton. So you thought, I think it's got something. Let's see what happens in a race of tempo. Well, it found it yesterday, and it's run 1:09.1. Yes, the track was playing fast, but it was dominant, and I think he's got a very, very exciting horse here, Soft Love, on the up. Hope they take it to South Australia for a stakes race too.
Yeah, race 8 was the Easter Cup, and the Paul Prusker, he goes well with these middle-distance staying type horses, doesn't he? Torrenzino found the line at $12.
Yeah, and he keeps them up forever. I mean, that's why I didn't want to... I thought Poison Chalice was poison odds. I thought it'd run well, but no, at 270 it was just madness. He's had Poison Chalice going up since October. Torrenzino's been racing since May, so that's an absolute tribute to the stable. For G to Stand goes well at Caulfield, just missed there at the big odds. And Night Endeavour, I gave it a show as well. I mean, I thought, you know, it had an opportunity to run well after, you know, just a little freshen up. It was lame at Sandown, but it ran very well in that Flemington race mid-January, so it's back on track as well. Ditto K Tempesta, that I think it was from that really fast Pride of Jenny's race. So blanket finish here, but they've run 2:01.1 due to what... Not sure what Declan Bates was thinking there out the front. Just mildly slower on Future History might have been a good idea, but what it did, it exposed that these horses are really on track at this time of year. And I'm going to include Sunsets in this. Good return to form. It was a stakes win as a 3-year-old. So while it was a blanket finish, I think there'll be heaps of winners out of this Easter Cup going forward.
Okay, the Victoria Handicap over the 1400. Gee, this was a win. Nicolini Vito descended, just dropped on him for Team Hayes and Luke Curry.
Yes, the head was wobbling here, and I did black book it to you guys 3 weeks ago because that Caulfield race was just farcical. The stewards should have asked questions there, frankly, because they just walked in a 1200 race, and this horse was just jammed in traffic the entire length of the straight. Probably from the 800 metre mark home. He's just a ripper. But Miss Aria, it was looking for 1400, just missed. Roll on high. 1400 specialist just missed, and Chorlton Lane just somewhere within 10 lengths to lead might have been a good idea. It's run well as well. So this was not a bad off-season stakes race. And again, if they go to South Australia, horses like Miss Aria and Roll on High, they'll probably target some mares stakes races, maybe even up north as well, because Roll on High won in Queensland Carnival last winter, and I think that's going to be a strong race as well going forward.
And the omen bet of the day in the last when Marty gets in the gym, Ralphie. Rhinoceros got the money. Well, you know what's in the front of the nose, and that's what I got after being alive in the first 3 legs of the quaddie with this winning. Cause,
up the Tijuana.
Wow. So it tells you something about Melbourne racing in these second-tier races, that camping out at Benzow Cup form's good enough. No, it was too good for me there, but horses to follow there. Look, I'm going to say I think the Easter Cup and the Victoria Handicap are going to be really strong form races in this off-season and or South Australia, and the horses are really followed going forward. That really exciting as Scenic Point, Soft Love, as far as, could be genuine stakes horses in time.
Okay, Ralphie, thanks for that, mate.
Good on you, boys. Talk next week.
There he goes, Racetrack Ralphy. Brad, you and I can just go through these other Group 1s. First off, here's the TJ Smith replay.
Further back to Sunshine in Paris. She's an A-lister. Headball, Traffic Warden, and Jimmy Star into the straight. Overpass leads by 2 and AME. Magic Time taking a rouse run. Jolly Star's hard fence. Now the grey Briasa gets going. Inside the 200. Overpass a length clear from Briasa, breathing down his neck. Overpass being tackled by Briasa the outside. Briasa goes to Overpass. Briasa overpass. Briasa won the TJ. Briasa edged out Overpass. Not sure about third. Headwall Flash
got third ahead of Jimmy Star, who was also making ground up into fourth position. But Brad, when you listen to any of the Hawks boys interview, this Briasa must do a lot of things right on the track because they're very emotionally attached to the grey. They were very confident that there was a Group 1 win around the corner, and he got the job done against Overpass, who loses no friends, coming across here for the Quokka. And the word on the street is that Headwall will be heading across to the Quokka as well off that run when third for Matthew Smith.
Oh, the first 4 are all beauties, aren't they? Absolute crackers. And Briasa, as you say, Michael Hawkes was very, very emotional there, you say. And Greg Radley asked him, when did you know you had a good horse? He said, when I bought him.
Yeah.
He said he hadn't even raced, hadn't even thrown a saddle on him. He said, hadn't trialled. He said to the owner, this could be the best horse you've ever had. I mean, that's amazing horsemanship to be able to do that. And to come to fruition like it has was just phenomenal. Overpass is just he's a freak. He's a beauty.
Yep.
And watch out the Quokka again. I love Headwall, as you do, and Jimmy Star. Look, and no doubt you and I was anyway. I was with Jolie Star. And
not me.
I don't understand why Damien was back on that inside. And people say, but if you have a look at the barrier draws, Briasa drew 3 and
Jolly Star
drew 4. So there was an opportunity there at some stage, I would have thought, to get in the right lane, and certainly being on the fence wasn't the right place to be.
The Doncaster Mile, it always throws up a result.
Oh, it's unbelievable. She's a beauty too, isn't it? Stephanie Magnetic.
Firestorm revved up. Further back is Anisette as they straighten up now. And Rise at Dawn comes up the rise, being tackled by Pericles, Royal Patronage. Another wheel the outside. Steffi Magneticas angling into the clear. Green Gots Tom Kidden taking inside runs. Steffi Magneticas working into the clear. They're right across the track. It's Royal Patronage. Steffi Magnetica up the inside. Rise at Dawn. End cap. Steffi! She got there today. Steffi Magnetica. Right on the line, nailing on the outside Royal Patronage, and End Cap whizzing.
Yeah, that was it. Steffi Magnetica, Royal Patronage, Endcap and Rise at Dawn was very cheeky, and Pericles close up. It was a bunch finish. Another Will Tom Kitten, all within a length, Brad. One thing I'd say about Steffi Magnetica, she's won 4 races in her life and 5.8 million.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? And Bjorn was very happy about that too.
Was he ever?
To be brutally honest, wasn't he? He was tearful as well. Saved my day, Marty. I got to tell you, with 1% of the first 4.
Oh.
So, which was, I just thought it was one of those races, and and it was a good push for NCAP in the marketplace too. Well, not in the markets, but in the around the trap. So. Yeah, it was just one of those races, and just some of the rides and a bit of fancied horses just didn't get into it. You know, like down the bottom there, a linebacker.
He was out the back getting checked, wasn't it?
Way
Linebacker.
out the back, weren't they?
Yeah.
Couldn't see him with a 303 rifle on the corner. So that made life really, really difficult. But well done.
They didn't go overly quick, Brad. 1:35.28.
No.
You could see. I remember saying in the run to David Short, we watched it together, and I think it was Port Lockroy. So it was in the yellow colours. I said, I think back behind Port Lockroy's no hope here, and sort of that was the way it turned out. The Australian Derby, we spoke about this earlier on, the filly. Let's have a listen to this.
Pressure as they turn, and Plymouth swings in front from the filly Aliana, who strides up boldly on the outside, and Aliana now takes the lead to the 300, beating off Plymouth. Shanwar, King of Thunder on the rails, further back to Willie Do It in firm agreement. Aliana 175 out, 2 lengths clear from Willie Do It, firm agreement, but she's really opening up now, Aliana, and the filly's going to destroy them in the Derby. Aliana, different class. Boy, she towed the boys up by 5. Firm agreement, I think, second, just in front of Shanwar.
It was. I just couldn't believe this win, Brad, because a form was good without being that good. But it was. Is it the fact she got to 2,400 metres? Is that what she was looking for?
Oh, look, I'm sort of, as say, all the tipsters that we speak to along the way. They said, if she stays. And then that was it. If she stayed. But they didn't forget the backer. Well, there were some sizable bets there. I think you'll talk about that in big bets after.
Yeah, someone had 40,000 on it, 240.
Oh, unbelievable. But as you say, she's got class. There's no doubt about that. As you know, I've been a bit of a fan of Willie Do It. He won the Derby in New Zealand, ridden upside down on speed, 3 deep. He'll be better for the experience, I'm sure. So he might be a horse to follow from Ralphy stable.
Yeah, I went the form from Tuesday, firm agreement, King of Thunder. They both went well, 2nd and 5th. And, of course, Shanwar ran really well for Kira Murren-Blake Shin, but she's different gravy. And on that, what price a Melbourne Cup? Why not? My goodness. By Castle Vecchio. Yeah, very stoutly bred on the maternal side as well. Counting down to the news at 7 o'clock. We've got plenty of texts to come your way. Keep them rolling on. This is The Aftermath.
Yeah, which is really good. I'll be doing the Giants in the West Coast, which won't be a lot of fun, I don't think.
But got a strong coffee?
Got that. Yeah. Port Adelaide St Kilda should be a beauty.
Yes.
That's not. I think those markets are too far apart, and then it should be the cracking game. We thought that yesterday's Gold Coast and Adelaide game was good. I think this one might be all right too. The Dogs in town to take on the Dockers, so both of them going okay off wins, and we'll see how they fare. Okay, let's get to the Retrovision text line. Plenty of texts to get through. The Eagles have had new personnel join the club, but nothing's changed. This is from our great friend Lisa in Ellenbrook. In my opinion, Pike, Woosher, Gavin Bell and Clark, etc., are showing how poor of administration they are. Oscar Allen should have been stripped of his captaincy, and the poor form he is in needs to be dropped to the waffle, along with Tim Kelly and Harley Reid. And bringing the young kids, we need players who are committed to the club. They're the future. This once powerful club, and other clubs feared, is a rabble and on its knees, especially when you hear that senior players are telling the CEO and the board what to do. It should be the dog wagging the tail, not the tail wagging the dog. Take care. Enjoy your day and week. Lisa of Ellenbrook. She's come out all guns firing for the West Coast. Yeah. I got to agree with that. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. So there are a lot of people saying, why can't he? Well, of course he can. Of course he can go out, Marty, and explore the market, but do it in silence. Don't do it in private. Do it on Zoom. They spend a bit of time in Melbourne. Get in an Uber. Go out to Clarkson's place and have an hour with him and have a coffee. But don't do it when you're the leader of the footy club. And that's the difference for me, and it always has been. Chris Scott chimed in and said, anybody who thinks that, Oscar Allen's done the wrong thing should grow up. Well, Chris Scott should worry about not talking about other clubs and other players. That's what he should do, and just concentrate on his own team. All of these sort of things just spark. We're talking footy. And look, Oscar Allen is in poor form. He played one really good game towards the back end of the year last year against North Melbourne, who were going like a buster down in Tassie. He kicked 4 or 5 in the last half, and they won the game there, West Coast Eagles. But you need, and as I say, I'll just repeat it again, Marty, one more time for the listeners. What they preach is messaging. It is the worst message visually that you could have. Your captain having a coffee in the open, obviously let it out by most likely his management to try and prod West Coast Eagles into cajoling him into a better contract. It's not a great look. Not a great look. Liam Baker should take it over at the end of the season. He's the only one that's worthy, I think, down there at the moment to take them forward.
So now I'm just reading between the lines. Are you saying that his management leaked this?
Yeah, I believe they did, yeah. Look, this has been going... You and I have been talking about this with Shorty for over a year, and they haven't been... Whatever contract may have been put in front of him, and I'm not even sure there is one in front of him right at the moment, because I think they've had a change of heart. He's had a change of heart. That I think they were trying to prod them to get them to the table and get them to the table the way they want to do it. But to their credit, West Coast are more than entitled to. What Lisa was referring to before, apparently the board did want, or several members of the board did want him to be deposed the other day. But then a deputisation of players went to Woosha and Pikey and said, no, we want him to stay. Well, that's what she's talking about with the tail wagging the dog. So, which is bizarre. If I'm the board or I'm Pikey or Woosha, I just say, no, back in your box, boys. We'll run the club. We'll make the decisions. And, but I think it's making it hard to drop Oscar Allen when he's co-captain. If he's not co-captain and he doesn't get a kick for the next month, hopefully he does for his sake, he should be playing in the Waffle. Well,
I think it's all about what he does next. So this game today is so important for Oscar to make a statement and say, well, I'm doing my darndest. I made a blue. But I'm a bit the other way with this, even because I agree with what you're saying about the transparency of whether it was leaked or the foolishness of doing it out in the open. It could have been done better. But a captaincy of a club still has the right to go and find out what he's worth on the market and with other clubs. That part of it I haven't got a problem with. The way they've done it, that's probably poor. If it was leaked, it's even poorer. But and because it's come, if they've leaked it, Brad, it's backfired on them.
Well, exactly, and he wouldn't have done that he would have been in cahoots with them. He would have known. They would have said they wouldn't have ambushed him and said, "Oh, listen, by the way, we're going to leak it." He'll find out in the media. No, that wasn't how it is. So I believe they were acting in cahoots. So that's their way. If they want to do that style of management, that's fine. I don't believe in it, and I understand it and the frustration that they're going through. They can't get in. Now, Marty, let's face it. Let's cut to Tim Tax. He's trying to get a 6 or 7 year contract in excess of $1 million plus. Would you do it?
No.
No. And now there are other clubs out there who have been sitting back and looking at Brisbane, and I'm looking at others. Others have been mentioned in dispatches, Essendon, Hawthorn, Collingwood. They've all been mentioned now because it makes it a bit more murkier and covers their tracks a little bit. But the bottom line is I know for a fact that one of the clubs that were allegedly interested in them are now having second thoughts saying, oh, hang on a minute, that didn't pass the pub test, that one, the way they handled that. So, yeah, they might be backing out of their particular offer even if he is available. Okay. And I get the feeling, I'm just taking a stab in the dark here on this Sunday morning, that he wants to go and they don't want him. So, but I reckon they came to some sort of reconcile during the week when he got out and claimed that he was ashamed and embarrassed. I don't know why you had to do that, as you say, because you are entitled to explore your options. But I just think, look, we just need to calm the farm here. Mate, you can do whatever you like at the end of the year. We'll get compensation for you if you do go. But we need to right this ship because it makes McQualter look like he has got no control whatsoever. This is a bloke who's been on the job for 3 weeks.
And
you know what I mean?
Been nowhere to be seen or heard, really, in the whole thing.
Correct.
But the first points around this that Lisa made about, being a weak board, dysfunctionality going on within the executive from the CEO down. I agree with that. And there are so many outward signs. We saw it last year. I think it's a weak board. I think that Don Pike needs support around him as a CEO. He's a very young CEO. And may have a little bit of inside mail about how it all works. And, I can see that that side, they need to get that. I don't think their on-field is going to improve until they get the back end sorted out. That would be where they need to get it sorted out first.
I agree. And I thought there's a little bit too much familiarity between the West Australian media and Minnie and Woosha and Pikey and JL. It's got to... you've got to have your parameters up there. There's got to be respect, and I don't think McCall is getting any of that right now. And it's almost like a union, Marty, because my understanding is that the management group for Oscar Allen has approached the list manager several times, but he's been told, I've got to talk to the football manager, who then's got to talk to Woosha, who then's got to talk to Pikey, who's then got to talk to the board.
Correct. Overreach everywhere. And as you said, it's an old mates club, blah, blah, blah. 7:15.
Well, they don't vote on them. They don't vote on them. They parachute them in.
Of course they do. 7:15, we've got a very special guest joining us, and Jeff Fennick is online. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Welcome back, Jeffrey. Triple World Boxing Champion, legend of the sport. You're in town. You're going to Newcastle today. Are you on the invite list? Are you allowed her in?
I'm in Newcastle. I spent the night there with my beautiful young daughter, Taylor. It was a beautiful restaurant. I had been with the whole family, and here for the fights.
Jeffrey, wherever you're standing, just turn 45 degrees one way or the other. You're getting a little fuzzy-wuzzy there, but it's great that you're spending time with your daughter. Now, we've got Tim Zhu back in the ring after 2 losses in a row up against Joey Spencer. Who's Joey Spencer?
Frank's brother.
That was just... That was a tough guy, and I'm not distant. To be honest, I think him, they wouldn't pick him. They thought he was going to have a really...
Oh, we've just lost Jeff there. That was a bad line. We might have to try and ring him back. Gee, we're not having much luck today, Brad. Is it
live radio? The wonders of live radio, Marty. So
I think technology, and particularly phones and technology, I'm going to have a rant here, as it has gone backwards in the last 10 years that fast. Like, we've done talkback for how long, Brad? How many times do you talk on talkback now and that happens?
Oh, a lot. More on hands-free, when they encourage that, and that's the way it should be. But, we have a lot of problems when people have hands-free in cars. But if you're indoors or just in the wind or whatever, it can be, not a great connection, Marty. I agree with you on that.
I used to see Wes Cameron smashing keyboards when he used to talk about technology, because he was never great at it, the great man. I'd say, Wes, just relax, mate. Technology. He said technology, it's good when it works. I'm starting to side his way. I think we've gone backwards.
Yeah, well, I'm not that technically minded either, but I can turn my phone on. I know that's one thing I can do.
And now, we've got one here. We've got one here off the text line. It was about Young playing for Peel. Oh, another one too. I'll just go to this one. Who were the 2 try scorers Sully liked in the Storm game? It was Hughes and Cherry. And here it is here, Marty and Brad. Why would the Dockers play Young yesterday for Peel? He looked fit enough. They definitely will need him today against the Dogs. Now, Darcy's a different class. He will need 2 or 3 runs before he plays for the Dockers. And just talking about that game, we had our first draw of the year in the Waffle in round 1 with Claremont and Claremont and Peel having a draw.
Okay, well, that's cool. And I hadn't checked the Waffle scores this morning because we've been busy doing other things at the moment. Trying to keep up to speed. But it's great to have the Waffle back in town and back on board and going well. I hope it's just an exciting season for everybody.
Yeah, so it was 12-7-79, Claremont 10-19-79. I've got a feeling these 2 teams have played a draw before. I might have even covered it, I think.
Okay.
They've got an interesting history, Peel and Claremont, because when Peel come in and were the easy beats, I reckon the first team they ever beat was Claremont. There you go.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good memory because you're stretching now. Obviously, I love my waffle, but I wouldn't be au fait with that sort of stat.
Yeah. So, but what about it? Were they playing him in waffle to give him a run? I think after 2 hamstrings, before the season starts, you'd want to ease him in, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, it's only for conditioning purposes, there's no doubt. I mean, you can do as much match scrimmaging and match simulation, and he's a gun, and we know that. He is a gun, but, it hasn't stopped him. Fife's a gun too, but he's been playing back down there, and I'm not sure if he played yesterday. I don't think he was going to play yesterday, but anyway, you get to a stage where, I think Darcy will come back through there. You really have to, and let's face it, it's a very, very hot game for Fremantle today, regardless. And with the soft tissue injuries like that, Matty, I always say you can nurse yourself through training, you can ease yourself through maybe a waffle game for quite a few minutes. But when you're out playing instinct football, and Young is one of those instinct players, the ball comes your way, you don't think twice. Any sharp movement, if it's not quite right, you're back in the sheds.
He had it 19 times and kicked 3 goals, so obviously he's had a good game, and that's probably where our techs who didn't have the names come from. Okay, Brad, let's talk about the games that we've seen, and we touched on Gold Coast and Adelaide. What a game it was. I asked you top of the hour, and maybe a lot of our listeners have just joined us about, was that free kick there or not? I'm sort of siding with the ump a little bit now. I think it may have been play on.
Look, I get it. And as I say, we've all had the benefit of watching it 200 times. And every time you watch it, you're going to be a little bit more convinced one way or the other. And there's going to be different angles to it. Now, there's 4 umpires out there, Marty. Unfortunately, none of them saw it. But the one who was calling the action got one look at it and made a blue. So we've got to give them a little bit of slack. But if we go back, and if that happened in the first minute of the last quarter, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Doesn't matter.
It's when it actually happens. And, not only were Adelaide a bit disappointed about that one, it's not how many you get, it's where you get them and when you get them. And, but from my point of view, it was a terrific game of football. They lost no friends. Adelaide are going really, really nicely. Their forward line has really kicked in, and, their midfield's strong. And it was just a remarkable game. And to the Suns' credit, they found a way to win because, as we said 12 months ago, they wouldn't have won that game. They would have got swallowed up.
Yeah, a really tough game. Contested possessions. What about this? 149 each of 2. Yep. It was a really even game statistically. It ebbed and flowed. Didn't it? A couple of times there, Gold Coast got away and you thought, hang on, they're 3 goals clear here. They've done enough at home. They'll get home. And then at Adelaide, to their credit, they just kept coming back. And they're 2 of the fittest sides in the comp, Brad. You and I have identified this. Both teams have not missed one weight session over the summer. This is what you want your footy teams to look like.
100%.
If your team's front up like this, like I'm just watching Matty Rao now, he is a specimen. But he didn't look like that last year, and he didn't look like that the year before. So
he was a man-child when he came on the scene, but he wasn't quite ready.
He was a little puffy and, carried a little bit, and they've trimmed him right up. So these 2 teams are really almost a benchmark, I believe, where they're going at the moment. That they've got the style of football, they've got the chaos if they need it, they've got the rebound off half-back, and they've got forward lines that work.
Yeah, exactly right. And look, there has been the knock on the Suns have been that they might have a little bit of a soft underbelly, and they were tested yesterday and they lost. As you say, there was so much contested ball. I think they lost that stat in the end overall, but they found another way to win. And the only concern, the smallest concern I have, because I hate it when midfields dominate the game and they don't win games. And I dare say it just, not that it's a real knock, but the bottom line is Walker 4, Tilthorpe 5, Fogarty 3, and they still lost, Marty.
Yeah.
You think, wow. How did that happen? That's a credit. That's what I'm saying. The credit's got to go to the Gold Coast Suns, albeit at home. I mean, when you've got 3 tall timber up the front there, striking a lazy 12 goals between them, you think, well, you're probably going to come off second best, but they found a way to win.
They were at full strength, Gold Coast. Adelaide had lost a couple. They just, they'd lost Rochelle, and then they lost Crouch, wasn't it? Or Laird, wasn't it? And Murphy. So in the last 2 weeks, they've lost 3 players. And they're pretty important players. Murray, sorry, not Murphy. So all of a sudden, they're just starting to feel it. It takes one at a time. Then all of a sudden you look and say, shit, they've got 4 or 5 players out here.
Yes.
So, and being up at Gold Coast, I think this is I know it was 91-90. Flip it back to Adelaide, you'd probably get a different result. But I know what you say. But the three-headed monsters are real. But, yeah, of course they're still going to lose a game even when they play well.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing is that game, we will see that in about round 19, I think the flip game is back in Adelaide, and what a game that will be. But you're right. I was just looking for that one X factor that they had yesterday, the Suns, and I think it was Daniel Rioli. You know, there was a lot made of,
good.
You know, how much they had to give up to get him with a couple of draft picks, etc., which they were prepared to sacrifice, clearly, the Suns. And it's paid off because of that play in the last quarter there, Marty, where, you know, he won the ball, took off, had about 3 or 4 bounces, off he goes down the ground and puts it down the throat of a forward. You know, that's the difference between winning and losing. Even Johnny Noble's given them a little bit more, you know, oomph off that half-back line, which they haven't really had in the past. And, you know, some of these kids are coming along, you know, Walter and Reed, and they're coming along nicely, Marty. It's, you know, Walter probably played his best game for the club yesterday, I thought, with his 3 goals. So
that was the one we've been waiting for, wasn't it?
Draft they had. Yeah, the super draft they had a year or so ago, and, you know, they're starting to come into their own. And as we said, it's about the hardness of Hardwick. He's found, and look, it's very hard to coach. If you haven't got it in your DNA, it's very hard to bring it out. But clearly, these kids have got some competitiveness in them, and he's bringing it out of them.
I think the overall pressure rating for this game was 193. Now, the interesting factor of this, just looking forward, and we'll get to the other games in one tick, is Adelaide have got to play Geelong first game of gather round off 5 days back home, off that game. Now, it's going to be a hard one to bounce off. I'll tell you what, I'd have them down the beach at Glenelg for the week. That's where they'd be if I was coaching them.
Oh, yeah. It'll be about rehab and rest. But you still got to have that little bit of a hit out somewhere, you know, maybe
sharp session
maybe
somewhere.
On Tuesday, something just to get to blow the cobwebs out, because sometimes teams don't do that. They don't train a lot these days anyway, Marty. As you know, it's pretty much maintaining. Once they get to fitness, they sort of they don't have big hit-outs midweek anyway. So, but I'm with you. And that's why I think Adelaide are a little bit, they're not scared of Geelong by any stretch of the imagination, but it is an arduous task, isn't it, when you think about it, a 5-day turnaround and you're coming up against a pretty strong side in Geelong. So they would have liked to have had that one in the bank, you know, to go, unbeaten. And because they happen to drop to Geelong for whatever reason, they're still in safe territory. So anyway, it's only 1 point, it's only one game, and Adelaide at the moment seem to seemingly have things on track.
You mentioned about Simon Goodwin earlier on. Gee, they come from yesterday in crunch time. Both Kane Corns, Hodgie, both basically said it appears that the players aren't playing for him. The game has moved past him. For how you could go down there and allow Geelong, there's a simple game plan for Geelong to beat them. You can't let them have uncontested marks. The minute they go above the season average for uncontested marks, they win. If you keep them below that, they lose. About 4 out of 5 games. And he just allowed them to have, I think it was 166 uncontested marks.
Yeah, look, you generally win the setups of teams, you know, like that, like Melbourne showed on Friday night, it's damage control off the bat. And that's not that's like trying to defend, you know, you're defending a total and you're trying to not get out, but eventually you do get out because you've got to play a shot sometime, you know, and that's what happened. And the Cats just banged up, one kick behind the play. Maxie Gawn, and I say he's not the same player that he was. Stanley took it to him. He was too athletic for him. You know, exposed him a couple of times, Max is a proud man. He's been a giant of the game. I'm not saying he's finished, but it's just not working well. And Fritz needs to pull his head in, and I'd be surprised if he plays, to be honest, in their next game. They've got to make a statement. You could sense that there may be, and it's always easier when you're losing because it amplifies things, and people are trying to read body language, and they said, looks like Petrarca wants out. You know, they started Oliver on the bench, which was interesting. I don't know whether that was a shot over the bow or they just felt as though, you know, they had a better presence in the middle of the ground without him. He doesn't hurt you anyway, Clayton Oliver. He gets a lot of ball, but he doesn't hurt you. So that's the other thing maybe they've recognised. And, it's a tough time. And, you know, they've been telling us all summer, stop talking, start doing. Well, at the moment, they're still doing plenty of talking and not a lot of doing.
Yeah, what about from Geelong's point of view? This kid, Connor O'Sullivan, haven't they found one there?
Beauty.
What a ripper. And
terrific.
Our lad Lawson Humphreys, he is one of the coolest users of the ball that you'd ever see for a kid. What's he played, 15 games?
Yeah, he's been amazing. And to be brutally honest, he has really found he's comfortable in his own skin out there, and he's really, really going well. And I think that Brad Close played really, really well early in the game, and Dangerfield stood up, and then that's going to happen when he might be 34, but he's going to be capable of doing that, once a month. I would think. I don't know if he would do it every week. They've still got to get more out of Jeremy Cameron, but they're a bit more even. Even Holmes was quite, not I thought anyway, but and Ollie Henry didn't get quite near it, and Stengel only got goals late. So there's a lot of improvement still in Geelong, the way they're going about it at the moment. As I say, at this point in the year, Marty, you just got to keep locking those 4 points away, banking those 4 points. Doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you get them, because hopefully your better football's in front of you.
Texter in from Matty. He said, well done, Marty. Your memory's still working all right. 1997, Peel's first win in round 8. They beat Claremont. It was the West Star season. Remember that, Brad? West Star.
Oh, the West Star, yeah. The old paper, the West Star football.
We've got another one here. Morning, gents. How long does Goodwin have before he's out of the Ds? As a Ds fan, it's a disgrace that Fritsch hasn't been dropped. That is Robbie from Bunbury. He's got a few mates. He's got a few mates, Brad, and we'll just last one on Melbourne because we need to get moving. He's got a few mates like Spargo and others who just haven't gone on with it. They look like being, going to be decent 150 game type players, and where are they?
Well, you go back to 2021 when they won the flag, and I still have nightmares about it because the Dogs were sailing at the 10-minute mark of the third quarter over your way, Marty. But you look at it, and you're talking 4 years down the track nearly now. Max Gawn, Petrarca, Oliver, Viney, May, etc. They were a lot younger men. They're getting on now, and they're getting battle weary, and they're just not as good, and the young blokes are coming. And Geelong have had that injection of not only keeping Dangerfield, Cameron, etc. together, Tom Stewart to a lesser degree, but they've been able to inject Holmes and these other guys into the side, Stengel, Close, these type of players who give you the enthusiasm, if you know what I'm saying. So, Melbourne just don't have that. And the guys that were the second-tier players for Melbourne who were, good on them, congratulations, quite a few of them are premiership players, just haven't been able to graduate up when the stars are starting to wane.
Now, Brad, I'll flip the Richmond-Brisbane game because I want to draw a synergy of that to North and Adelaide the week before. Yep. These teams that are poor teams, let's call them poor teams like Richmond, and I'm going to put North Melbourne in a poor team bracket here because I thought they had moved on a little bit. When they can have honourable losses by, 30-odd points and under the line, say the line's 50 and they beat it by 20 points, right? That gives you an indication they've played well. That's all good. But when you get into a game where you're expected to have a chance of winning that match like North were, they were well backed, 250 into 217. Sydney had 7 or 8 of their best players out. North a real big chance at home. And I thought they played a very poor brand of football there yesterday. They were very, very disappointing.
Yeah, I was bitterly disappointed. I said to the boys on the brekkie, I thought this is my best outsider for the weekend. North, they cover that ground at Marvel. That's where they play their best footy, Marty. They can be defensive and also attacking. But well done to Dean Cox and the Sydney Swans. I mean, because he's got the system going. I mean, it's almost, I know we hear it's very, very mundane and very cliche, but one soldier down, another one up, and that's the way he's got them going. That's the way you've got to do it, where North are very spasmodic, aren't they? And, it just appears, I just cannot understand. There's a lot of talk about LDU. Maybe he wants out. Maybe they want to pay him $10 million. Seriously. I don't think, I know, it just doesn't do it for me either. And a few of the blokes that they've got. Now, it started okay for Darling and Parker and Caleb Daniel, but it's really fallen off the last couple of weeks, hasn't it? You know what I mean? Even though they only got beaten, but Adelaide only did what they needed to do last week. But I was very disappointed, bitterly disappointed with them last night. And Sydney just continued to keep on keeping on. And well done to Coxie, because he fully deserves it. But North, they're going to get into. They shouldn't be having, as has been reported in the press. We thought these games were over for North Melbourne. We thought they were on the right track. They're on the right trajectory. But one step forward and about 3 steps back in the last fortnight. They
just make simple blunders. Charlie Comden,
yep.
I really rate him as a good player, but I've seen him now 2 weeks in a row dropping marks as a centre-half back in crucial moments in a game that resulted in a goal the other game. Just mark him, mate. That's what you're paid to do.
Yeah.
You're 6'10" or 2 metres, whatever you are. At Aiden Core, everyone tells me how bad a player he is. I saw him go back with a flight and take 2 marks that Comden should have taken.
Yeah.
And then you just...
I know. I agree with that. And it does hurt you. If those guys, particularly the big guys, don't take those marks in crucial positions, because everyone is flying past thinking, well, this is the way the ball's going to be going, so we need to be. Then all of a sudden it's going back the other way, and everyone's caught out of position on the defence side of things, and they just walk in and kick easy goals, and they really put a spread on them in that third quarter. Didn't they?
These much vaunted young players. You know what? They might be good in a good side. That's when you may see the best of them. But as long as they stay at North, you'll get those performances that, like, Sheasel 34 is 19. That wouldn't have hurt a fly, those 34 yesterday. They were just little ticky ones around the back half the time. LDU again, same thing. Simpkin, same thing. They fill up the stat sheet. But the amount of times they turn it over, the amount of times they take the wrong options, and the amount of time they just cost their side a goal or give up a goal. Bailey Scott, how many games has he played? Don't get me started on him. What's he played? 105 games. Wow.
There's a few deficiencies there, but the other thing is, Marty, is you're right. I mean, what often is a constant trait in losing teams is self-preservation, and I don't buy it. And as I said, I did the Tigers Lions game yesterday, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But again, North Melbourne are in a situation now where Sheasel can have it 30 times. LDU can have it 30 times. But they're still going to get beat, and people aren't going to care because they're not hurting you. And Sheasel's been fantastic the first 2 years, but he has not quite got to the same mark. I hope he can. And hoping he can rise to the occasion. I'm sure he will. He looks like a terrific young lad. As I say, but McKercher and all these other ones, they've got to get that consistency in their game where you take the right options, you hit your targets. You can have the best laid plans and structures in the world, but if you can't execute by hand and foot, it don't matter anyway.
No. Hey, and just on Richmond-Brisbane, again, Richmond, beat the Lion and say, great performance, all that. Okay, well, this next week you're playing the Fremantle. It's 15 versus 13th. You're playing them at Barossa Park over there in Lindog. Come out there and beat Fremantle or get beat by a point or something. If they go next week...
I enjoyed Uzo yesterday. I liked his post-match press conference because what he was saying to his players, it was a nice effort, but near enough isn't good enough.
Yep.
And exactly what you're saying. We were there. We've got to be in games to win games. Now, the Lions did what they wanted to do. It's a hard task for Uzo. He's trying to get this young team into sync, and you can't improve everything so quickly, But they really did. And I loved it yesterday because they were having a crack. They were getting outplayed by Brisbane in fits and spurts, and they always held sway. There was never ever a chance they were going to lose that game. But the bottom line was, when you try hard and you score, and let's face it, they scored 90 points, which is not bad, you keep getting those energy levels very topped up, and you keep going. And then Broad and all these older players start getting involved, and they're enjoying it. You can lose and still enjoy your footy, and that's what the Tigers looked like they were doing yesterday. And young Lawler, and as I said, exactly what we were talking about just a few moments ago, 24 disposals, 2 goals. Thank you. Yep. That's what you want. That's what you want from you. And he has made the graduation. He had an outstanding game, first one, and a little bit quelled the last couple, but back up there against the best, let's face it, in the business for the moment. They're the reigning premiers. And, he can take a mark, he can run, he's got a tank, he's not playing under 18s footy, he's playing senior footy. And that's really, really good to see.
Yep, that is for sure. Just got a text here. Who were the other winners in the waffle? Well, East Fremantle, the Sharks were too good for West Coast, 131-82. Subi 65, beaten by East Perth 80. Swans at home got beaten by West Perth 103-55. And the mighty Perth Demons, Brad, at the home of football at Lathlane Park, 10-9-69, were defeated by South Fremantle 12-10-82 in the 1970 grand final replay. Win Rosebender was one of the disappointments for Perth yesterday.
Yeah, well, I really feel for them. Yeah, they've got all the resources in the world up there, haven't they? But no, it's good. It's good to see the Waffles back, Marty. As I said, it's the pathway for more young players to be making it into the AFL. I'm really pleased. Just as an aside, Dan Curtin, great to see him. He's playing pretty good foot for Adelaide, isn't he?
Oh, he's okay.
He's averaged a goal a game. He didn't get one yesterday, but he's still going good. And I'm just flabbergasted he didn't make it to one of our local sides a couple of years ago in the draft.
Lawson Humphries, where do you want to start? Take a break. 20 away from 8.
Every Sunday morning, like a lullaby to a baby's ear, Marty Young and Brad Hardy entertaining you on the Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Racing, Ripon Moses came out quickly, one to crash to the inside, holding it out early was Kuro coming across, Rapido Jedi. In behind them next of all was Aston Costello, the favourite, found the top, then followed by Bezecchi. In behind them next of all, down the back was West on Booney, along with Aston Nero. Last of all was Rare Speed. Down the back, Ripon Moses held the lead. In second place, Aston Costello pushes through, and underneath it was Bezecchi running on. Bezecchi railed through, blew the whistle, went to the lead. Following it through, West on Booney runs on, but in the straight, smart win by Bezecchi. Bezecchi wins from West on Booney. Third in Ripon Moses ahead of Aston Costello, then followed...
Oh, he's a beauty, Bezecchi. Paul Stuart trains him. He joins us on the Aftermath. Hi, Paul.
29.70.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Yeah, we're well. I've got Brad Hardy over in Melbourne.
Morning, Brad.
Good on you, Paul. Congratulations. What a win. You didn't have a little remote control in the grandstand, did you? Steering him around.
Yeah, I was holding it in my pocket, mate. It was the first time it's worked for a while.
Well, it worked. Gee, that was a good win. Well, we know he's a good dog. Everyone knows that. You've taken him east before. We've been waiting for... Geez, it was a really good win to come from where he came from.
Yeah, it was. He copped a nice bit of collisions early. He sort of come out fair for him. He's been missing the kick about 2 or 3 lately, and he actually came out with them last night, and Ripon Moses come across and chopped down on them all and took his legs from him for a bit, which pushed him to the back. But then, there's a rails run come through on the first corner, and he was good enough to sort of take the run and put himself nice and handy, going down the back. It's probably the closest he's been to him for a while, and then, he pushed through underneath and got the job done. So, it's just a good confidence run. He's promised a lot and hasn't delivered lately, but, it's good to see him get a little bit of confidence back from that last night.
Yeah, well, we talk about horses having iron cast constitutions, and he must do, because he loved a little bit of a bump. He loved that little bit of, I'll have a bit of a go here. That's all right. Give us your best, and I'll dust myself off, and off I go. Yeah,
it's good to see, actually. You don't see him... You get a lot of dogs that do the opposite these days. They're pretty soft-hearted. One of my other dogs was a bit that way last night. In the pink, he was a bit disappointing. I'll repeat Jedi, but when you see him cop a bump and continue on, it shows you that they're in a good space and they're happy to be there and get on with it. So they're few and far between, and when you have them, they're nice to have.
Paul, you said he's been a little bit disappointing of late. Have you worked out why and why he turned that form around last night?
Oh, not really. He's sort of he's been running well, but just he's been blowing the start. I think his last 2 or 3, he's absolutely walked out the boxes, and he's given himself too big a start to sort of catch up. His times have still been there. He's been running around the 29.9, 29.8, coming from a long way back. And I mean, to be fair, they only ran 29.7 last night, but he just put himself up there earlier, which is probably why he's probably improved his time and it looked better on visually. So, he's just one of those dogs. He's always hit or miss out of the boxes. He plays up sometimes, and last night he just come out with them, which was a change. So hopefully he can sort of do that a bit more often. So, yeah, it's just up to him. I mean, he has come out running before and run the hands off the clock, and then other times he just doesn't. So he's just one of those dogs, I guess.
Paul, I think a little while ago you trekked east with him and chasing $1 million race and didn't draw well that night. Is he capable of maybe having another tilt? Is there something longer term that you're more, even intermediate term that you may be looking that he can go elsewhere?
Oh, it's hard to say. He's sort of like he has got the ability in the world. The time he ran at Wentworth Park was the second quickest there ever at the time. And, he's a dog, if you give him the right run and in the right race, he can win anything. So, yeah, it's just more of probably string a few more here if you can. Just get that confidence back up. And then, I mean, the way it is these days, you can travel, at the drop of, the next day, if he runs a sizzling time one day, you can send him over east to the next. So that's probably not an issue. There's always races coming up. There's not much here at the minute. So, if he happens to string a few more together, they have races at, I think there's a Sandown in May. There's races there, and then there's Queensland after that, Queensland would be a track that would suit him because it's a nice long run to the corner. We'll just see how he goes.
So where's his next run here?
He'll just go back into a free-for-all next week. We'll chuck him in there and, hopefully he can... We just need to see this, how he ran last night a bit more consistent before we start thinking of anything else with him.
How about in race number 7? You've produced this Greyhound Ironworks. Gee, there's a bit of a boom on him. He's a promising stayer by the look of it.
Yeah, he was super last night. His first time over the 7:15, it's always a bit of an issue whether he can run it out strongly. His racing pattern sort of over the 600 showed he would, but that was him coming from behind. And with the small field last night and drawn well, he was always going to be on the speed, and sometimes they can gas themselves out when they get on the bunny the first time for a while. But he ran it out really well. His sections were super, and he finished off the race and ran really good overall time for a first up 7:15. He couldn't ask for much more.
Paul, our listeners love a coming winner. Have you got anything in the next 7 days they should keep their pens and paper ready for?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, he was a good dog. Ironworks last night, very short, but yeah, probably they're a hard one to sort of follow. Probably one to follow for me. I've got a couple maidens getting around. There's one called Starlight Tory. She got beat on Wednesday, but there was merit in her run, and she can run a little bit. So she's probably... I think I'll probably nominate her for next Saturday in the maiden. So if she can get a run there and she can draw decent, she might be one to follow.
Hey, Paul, I just, being a greyhound trainer of repute like you are and an aficionado, what do you make of West on Sydney's win in the first over the 5:30 there at Cannington?
He's super fast. He's a very, very quick dog. His issue is he's got no pace. I mean, he looked good last night. He was only a moderate field. But his go will be further. He's not going to be a champion sprinter, I don't think. I could be wrong, but just his racing patterns probably wouldn't suggest that. But he could be anything over 600 and 700 if he can run the trip, because he doesn't stop. I mean, I was watching him on the dice yesterday after they took him back from the photo, and he wasn't blowing like he ran 29. So he's got plenty more, he can run a lot further than 500. So I think that's where you probably see the best of him. Did
you happen to see Lewis Clay's dog Max Capacity run in that heat of the Association Cup at Wentworth Park last night?
I sure did. Yeah, he was a massive run. I think he was drawn in the 5. He was in the 5. He came out with him and then sort of wanted to shift off like he does a little bit. So he copped a bit of a bump early, and then just powered past them. And then, once he got clean, he ran super. I mean, he blew up the field, and he has a tendency of running wide, but through the first turn, he actually railed really well. So, he's just a dog with confidence. He comes from, the Galaxy Series and ran as good a time as they did win in the final. Obviously they underrate our WA dogs a bit when they first go over there, but now he's run the time on the board. If he can draw well, he's probably the dog to beat in the Association Cup.
Hey, Paul, I was thinking about this driving in. Where does it WA rate in greyhound racing nationally? Because as you just said then, they underrate our dogs over there. But not just our dogs, our trainers. We've got to have a group of the best trainers, and I know it's a bit hard with you being one of them, anywhere in Australia over here in WA, don't we?
Yeah, we have our standards have lifted massively in probably the last 15 years, I'd say. Obviously I spent quite a lot of time over in Sydney and Melbourne, working and travelling. Look, to be fair, our standard of training, as the kennels and everything, are probably as good as anywhere else, probably better as a blanket profile. And our dogs have gone through the roof. I mean, you probably could rate them, 15 years ago to be Melbourne, Sydney, Queensland, us, then South Australia. Well, I think we're not far behind it being probably, probably two, I'd say. And that's vice versa between Sydney and Melbourne. They can chop and change between themselves. But, you have to have a look at the body of work that's come out of WA in the last 5 or 10 years. And, pretty much every time a WA dog goes east, it's competitive, if not winning. Yeah. That's a pretty big call, which can't be said for when they come here sometimes. So, it's just, I think the quality of everything's gone up, obviously. The skills of the trainers have gone up, and just the quality of dogs, the breeding, just everything. Like, we used to be a dumping ground for Eastern States dogs back 10 years ago, whereas now you barely get an interstate dog come here to sort of live, getting bored over. Most of these dogs are WA bred. Yeah. And that just goes to show you the strength of them, because those dogs from over there aren't competitive anymore over here.
Paul, been wonderful to catch up, have a chat.
What's up, Paul?
What a win in the Lou Dawes. A time-honoured race too, the Memorial Trophy, taken out by Bezecchi last night. Thanks for coming on.
Good on you. Thanks, boys.
There he goes, Paul Stuart. He's a man in form. We'll take a break.
Tried to steal it. Fun Charles the leader. O'Donnell had a sustained look around the right shoulder. Now goes to work on Machine Gun Gracie, who comes at Fun Charles. They've raced away 3 lengths. Twilight Tail, Noah Quintilli, Machine Gun Gracie. She regains the lead and she sprints away from them. It's the Machino filly. She's running them ragged. Machine Gun Gracie, a star. Machine Gun Gracie, far too good, won the Oaks, and it's a year-to-year double for Justine Erkelins.
Yeah, how good was Machine Gun Gracie there yesterday, Brad, by Machino, beats Fun Child, yes. Quintelli and Summers Legacy back and forth. Cannot wait to pull that one apart on Racing Rewind with Lockie Taylor and Richie Bell coming up. But she does look to be a genuine star of the future. 229, she won 230. She'll take the boys on in a fortnight, and I can't see them beating her on that one.
Yeah, I had to watch the replays last night, Marty, because obviously working yesterday at the G, and I think the punters would have had a tidy day by the look of it, by most of the results, yes. And which is a nice little fill-up. It's always good to have a little fill-up every now and then.
It certainly is, Brad. Let's talk about these 3 games very quickly. First off, GWS, they've been backed as if they're going to win this game by 70 points. The line is 67.5. I think it blew out from about 48 or something like that. So,
the bank tellers can't even get on.
What do you think?
The old bank tellers.
From West Coast point of view, what do you want to see from them?
Oh, look, good luck to the 3 debutants. I don't think enough has been made of that. At least they're getting one thing right. When you are down at the bottom of the ladder, expose the kids, They may not be ready, but I'm sure everybody's had that situation in their career, where you thought, oh, am I really ready for this? But unfortunately, it's going to be a baptism of fire for them over there. The Giants can and will win by as much as they want to. But West Coast have just got to try and hang in there and, just work for one another and just gain the experience, because it might not be the best day for them today, but hopefully it'll stand them in good stead going forward. So the Giants win by as far as they want to kick their hat, to be honest.
Okay, Port at home $1.50. They've got to bounce back. St Kilda in good form, 260, 12.5. There's been a bit of money for the Saints throughout the week. Yeah,
not surprised. I think the market's too far apart. I mean, Port were a little soft last week, I thought. I just think they wanted to do what they wanted to do, and St Kilda who play Marvel really well, so I prefer them there. But I'm thinking just Port Adelaide bounce back, but they need to, don't they, really?
Oh, they do. They get players back, so, they're getting to a point where they've got a good side on the park. There's no excuses. Final game, Fremantle, they're $1.62. Western Bulldogs, $2.30. There hasn't been much guidance from the market here. There's been very little confidence in either side here.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a terrific game. I think it's going to be a game of contrasting styles. I think Fremantle we're encouraging to try and move the ball quicker, so they'll probably want to get it on the outside. Whereas the Bulldogs at the moment going well, got a little bit undermanned still, but they would like to keep it in close, keep it in tight, keep it in the arm wrestle scenario. So, I think Fremantle probably just the last 10 times these two teams have met, Marty, 5 each, but both all at home. So it might be what they call a venue match, I suppose, where Fremantle just. But the Doggies will give them something to think about, and so will Rory Lobb with that haircut.
Well, good luck to the man. He's demanding attention to himself, so hopefully he can handle that attention when he comes up against one of his old clubs. I was at that match last year, the corresponding. It was a night game, Saturday night, and even though the Dockers on the score sheet won, the Bulldogs, they remember Botten Pally missing one from 15 out. They were very wasteful that night, and when they had the return bout back home, Western Bulldogs really gave it to Fremantle. So, as you said, venue game.
They've had to unearth a few, Davidson and a few of those guys, Freesia. They've come through because they may not have got a game if all the trumps are up on deck. Treloar and Bontempelli, etc. So at least they found a couple of players, and Fremantle will be wrapped that Young got through yesterday, as you say, with 3 goals. So you should think he'll be back playing next week in Gather Round.
Sunday saviour.
Mornington, race 1, number 10, Tel Aviv, $1.75 there, Marty, to kick us off. Then the Gunda guy where the dog sits on the tucker box.
Yes.
Race 4, number 6, there's a debutant called Sheridan Street. Goes pretty good, apparently, $4.20, so there's our value. And then we'll go back to Mornington, race 7, number 5, Albertville for the McDonald stable, $2.25. So Mornington, race 1, number 10, Gunda guy, race 4, number 6, and Mornington race 7, number 5. Total of $16.53 there, Marty. That'll do us.
Yes, working under extreme conditions today, Brad, but you've done a fantastic job. Thanks for being on here, of course, for Retrovision and Loans 123.
All the best, Marty. See you safe.